Good morning. Welcome in to another edition of Trust Matters Real Estate and Estate Planning Solutions. It's with Gateville Law Firm's Sean Robertson. They're located in Yorkville at gatevillelawfirm.com. Sean in studio with us this morning. How are we doing today, sir?
Doing well. How are you doing today, Mike?
Not bad. We're focusing on a topic that I don't know how many folks use solar panels these days. It's becoming more and more popular.
Yep.
And there could be a lot of folks that are interested in it, maybe don't know the different workings with it, the ins and outs, and all the information that we're going to focus on today. Hopefully will help it kind of talking about solar panels and actually how it might complicate closings, right? How does that all work?
Yeah, the way it works is if you lease, so there's normally two options, Mike. The first option is a family can either pay for the solar panels outright, or they can lease them, or they can finance the solar panels. So if they lease them, then the solar panel company will do what they call a UCC filing. And those can sometimes complicate residential deals for a couple of reasons. Number one is maybe a buyer may not be interested in solar panels because they've heard horror stories. And don't get me wrong, I'm not pro or against. The second reason could be there's a lot of industry change occurring with the solar panel companies. Some of them are going out of business. Like, for example, I just recently had a closing in the area where one of the solar panel companies went bankrupt. And it caused a lot of issues, and we almost weren't able to close because our job as a seller was you either have to pay off the solar panels at closing or transfer the paperwork. But because the company was in bankruptcy, would have to go get bankruptcy approval, it complicated things where that wasn't an option.
So maybe go a little deeper here in terms of the solar panels. If they're owned, if they're leased, maybe break it down a little more for us there.
Yeah, so with solar panels owned, I mean, they actually typically enhance the value and they simplify the process, the closing process. So the reason why if you own it, the only thing you can transfer it to the buyer, so it's easier. There's not really paperwork to fill out. When you lease or finance solar panels, the buyer has to, number one, get financed to take over your contract. And number two, if there are issues with your solar panel company, it's in bankruptcy, that could complicate things. So a lot of underwriting from title company standpoint and lenders, from what I've heard, are having a lot of issues with solar panels.
Yeah, it certainly can increase the property value, and that's all good and can be a benefit environmentally and all those things, but it sounds like it can be a big headache when you get to this point.
It can be, because I still think we're kind of on the beginning stages of the solar panels. I mean, I think 20, 30 years from now, a lot of these issues and a lot of these companies will be stabilized. But right now, it's still kind of a new trend. And what happens with new trends and new companies is there's a lot of change and flux. And unfortunately, if you're a seller, that can kind of hurt you.
Especially when it comes to the leasing situation and maybe it's a monthly payment or whatever it may be. Probably not a lot of flexibility on how you can manage that, or?
No, there's not. Like, for example, I was telling you about my recent transaction, and my seller was pretty adamant that they didn't want to have to pay off the solar panels. But in order to get the deal done, that's what we ended up doing. And that was really the only option because the buyer, through their attorney, didn't want to take on the lease. And the reason why is because they didn't want to become our seller where they needed to sell for some reason and they're stuck in court because of a bankruptcy.
Yeah, if you see a house you really like, you better make sure you want to deal with the solar panel cost if that is a part of the deal.
Right.
It might be a deal breaker.
Right. And not only that, but I've heard for liability insurance reasons, it complicates the liability insurance. I don't know how true that is, but my point is I think solar panels are great and they can enhance a home. But with me, I would be reluctant. And I think the only way I would do a solar panel is if I paid them off. I think paying them off is the best way. Then I think they will enhance your value. But if you lease them, there's too much flux going on and it can ruin a real estate closing.
Yeah, and that's where you guys come in to help break it all down and navigate these interesting and challenging issues that you don't always think about as a home buyer or a home seller. It's Trust Matters Real Estate and Estate Planning Solutions. Sean Robertson, our guest with Gateville Law Firm. They're in Yorkville at gatevillelawfirm.com online. You can call 630-780-1034. Join us again at the same time next week for Trust Matters Real Estate and Estate Planning Solutions.